So let's add an additional route here that says that if I see details and I see the IMDb ID as an argument, right, as part of the route, I will want to load the following template and controller. Right, so it'll be template URL in a separate details.html, and it'll have a separate controller. Controller details controller that we can refer to it in the HTML as model again. Okay? All right. So let's create that controller. We'll declare it here. Call details controller. Details, the same name that we're using here, details controller. Right. Implement it in the function by same name, function details controller. And what we're going to do is that when we get there, we're going to load the ID and load the information about that one movie. Yes. So let's we'll need a landing page for that. Details. There it is. This is going to be the same thing. OMDB API. Search movie by title. So this will be movie details. How's that? Movie details. I'm not going to have an input field. I'm just going to have this empty for now. Just want to make sure we can navigate there. There we are. So movie details. All right, so we can go back and forth between the search and the details. Right? If I type something and I click on something, I'll go to movie details. Yes? So the navigation is working. So let's actually do the search. Right? So here in the search, in the controller, we're going to do the search right when we load. Right when we load, we're going to do right in the init. All right, so function init. We're going to take the movie service. Well, actually, no. First, we'll need the ID, right? The IMDb ID. So let's fetch that first, and we'll need to parse it from the route. Yes, from the route parameters. So we'll need route params. So let's load and parse the IMDb ID, parse it from the route params. What do we call it? I think we call it the same way, right? IMDb ID. Now that we have the ID, we should be able to search it from the controller, right? And using the services, we can say, hey service, I wish you would have the following function. I wish you would have a function that would allow me to search movie by IMDb ID. And we can pass it as argument the IMDb that we parsed from here, right? Yes? Right? But yes.
I have a quick question. We're parsing the ID out of route params, but it's not something that's necessarily going to, like, you're not really going to display the ID in the view.
I'm not.
So would it make sense more to keep it on a variable on the controller as opposed to putting it in the model? Like when we do our project and we do the assignments, right?
Right. Yeah. This will be helpful if you need to maintain context of where you are. If you need to go back to a parent or somehow you're in a chain of hierarchies and you need to know where in that hierarchy you are. So it's useful just to keep them around. But yeah, in this particular case, it wouldn't be, it's not buying us anything. So it could be just a variable in the controller as well. Yes. Right? Now we don't have a search movie by ID in the service, so let's implement it. Right? So let's add it to the API. Okay. Implemented a function of the same name that's taking the IMDb as a parameter. And here's where we're going to do a query to retrieve that data from the service using something similar as before. But the URL is a little slightly different. Right? The URL doesn't use a movie title. It uses the ID of the movie and the same API key. It's going to do a GET request using this URL, and it's going to unwrap the data, and it's going to return it to us right here. What are we going to do with that? Where is it? What are we going to do with it? We're going to pass it to a function that renders the movie, one movie. Right, before we were rendering a whole bunch of movies. Render movies here. Here we're going to render one movie, and we're going to do a function here, render movie, and this is the movie. I'm going to say model.movie equal movie, right? So that we can render it on the details page, the model.movie. Right, so let's try that. So if I refresh, notice that it comes back. Right, there was no need to go back to the search page. We could just come back here, right? We have the ID right there, and this is what comes back from the server. Okay, that makes sense. Right. So the next thing would be to render that. Okay, but I'll leave that up to you. Right? You can grab this and render it a JSON object. Right, and then you can play with it. That makes sense. Right? Notice that one thing that we have not solved is I'm going back here, and it doesn't remember what I searched for. Right? If I search for Batman and I do a search, if I click here, it goes back and it shows me that object information. But if I do it back, notice that it doesn't remember that I had searched for Batman. See that? Okay, that's non-trivial, right? And I'd like you to investigate how you might do that. Okay, and we can take a look at it a little later. There is a requirement in the project, right, that the back button should work, right? And this is this is exactly what I mean. Right? If I go forward, notice that it remembers this. You see that? It remembers. It went out and did the query, and it came back with a response. This does not live in our client, right? It's not stored in the session. Right? It's going out and retrieving these things. Same thing should happen if I go back. Right? Why is not that there? Why is there nothing here? So think about it, and then we'll talk about it perhaps next week. But there is a requirement in the project that the back button should be able to remember every time you move forwards and backwards. Okay. Somehow it would need to remember that you had typed here Batman, and then you searched. Yes. Okay. But if I go forwards and then I come back, this should still say Batman in the search results. So think about that. We'll discuss it next week. All right, stop here.